Well, hello everybody. This is Bob Van Buren once again for the Van Buren Variety Show. As always, very glad you're here. Those of you that are watching this live as we go, and even those that are watching this days, weeks, months ahead, doesn't matter when you see it, just glad you're here. And I want to suggest and stress that if you really like tonight's topic and you really like tonight's guest, make sure you hit that like button. There is a like button down there. And if you like it, you can share it out. And if you haven't subscribed to my show yet, there's a subscribe button down there. And what does a subscribe button do? Well, that lets you know future topics, future episodes, and you might even be seeing another show spinning off from this channel. I've kind of teased you with that. Still working on that. So by hitting that subscribe button, you can get updates. And you can also email me for suggestions of people you'd like to see on this show, topics that you would like to see. This is a variety show, so you can see from the map behind me, we cover all topics worldwide. It could be a person's profession. It could be a person's hobby. It might be a musical guest, or it could be someone showing you something, how to make something, a how-to segment. So you never know what you're going to get, hence the word variety. So make sure you subscribe, and that way you'll get all the updates and all the information you need going forward. And make sure, if you haven't seen previous episodes, once you click on Van Buren Variety, when you get into YouTube on the channel, there are several things you can click on, like home and videos, etc. Click on the videos tab after you click on Van Buren Variety, because then you will see all the episodes we've done so far, and click on one that speaks to you, that you really think you'd be interested in. And again, thumbs up really helps, so make sure you do that. Speaking of episodes, this is episode 78 of the Van Buren Variety Show. Yes, this is number 78. I've done 78 episodes since I've started this show over a year ago, and it's been a fun ride. But now, when I hear the number 78, and I'm going to age myself when I say this, and I know some of you know what's coming. When I hear the number 78, I think of this right here. And for you young people that don't know what this is a 78 RPM record. RPM stands for rounds per minute or rotation per minute. This is not a vinyl record. This was made of porcelain. This particular record, I Googled it. It was made in 1923. So it is going almost 100 years old. And so there was two sides to the record. So this is a 78 record. It played very fast. But now, I bought this at a sale, but I don't recognize the name or the artist, because I just got it for the nostalgia. But the name of it is called So This Is Love, and it's by an artist named Irene Bordoni. Maybe she was popular back in the day. Does anyone know who or ever heard of Irene Bordoni? B-O-R-D-O-N-I. Maybe she was popular 100 years ago, but I think time might have kind of not been kind to her. But So This Is Love, 1923. But this is a 78 RPM record, and I know a lot of people probably never heard of this. But there was 33, 45, and 78. So when I hear 78, this is what I think about, and I know I just aged myself among millions of people right there. So there's your 78 RPM record trivia for the day. But we're not here to talk about records, though. So I'm going to bring a question to you all, those of you watching live and the ones that are watching this much later. Have you read a very good book lately, whether it be a sci-fi or whether adventure novel? Maybe you haven't, maybe you have. Well, let me intrigue you for a little bit. I've got a whole series of books that we're going to talk about tonight, written by one author, and I have the privilege of having her on tonight. So let me bring her on right now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lynn. She's going to be talking about her writing career and all the books that she's written. So, Lynn, welcome to the Van Buren Variety Show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited. And, as I mentioned earlier to you, I felt like being twinsies was kind of fun today.
Look what she did, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you talk about being kind to the host. I've never had a guest up till now pay tribute to my hat as well. Now, look, we are absolutely twins now. See that? So, yes, it helps to compliment the guest, to humor the guest. I mean, humor the host sometimes. So thank you, Jalen. I appreciate that. That makes me feel really good. So, let's talk about your career, Jalen. We're going to be talking about, we have so many books to talk about, but I'd kind of like to start from the beginning.
Mhm.
What got you interested in writing, and how long have you been writing?
So I've been writing my first book 2012, if I'm thinking that correctly. Um,
2012.
yeah, I'd have to double check because it's been a while. And I really started writing based just off of curiosity. So I'd gone to this Egyptian exhibit about
Uh
King
huh.
Tut,
Oh, wow.
and it was so cool. I mean, I was in our group, I was the one who was like last. I was going so slow, reading everything, taking notes in a book. Like my tour group, like I was in the tour group after us, because I was just taking so long. I loved it. And there were so many things about King Tut and his wife,
Uh huh.
Ankh-Amun. They're like on chairs, they're on all the decorations, fans,
Wow. Oh.
all the stuff. But what's interesting, what really intrigued me is nobody knows what happened to her. After King Tut's death, she wrote this urgent letter to another prince to get him to marry her because she didn't trust the people in the palace.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, an envoy was coming and the prince died before he could get there.
Oh,
And
wow.
eventually, her grandfather took the throne, and after that, she disappears. So I
Hmm.
wanted to know what happened to her.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved ancient Egypt, especially ancient times. Just is so fascinating to me. So I
It
just
is.
decided I was going to read everything I could and write her story. So that's kind of how I got started. Was with my first book, Aten's Last Queen, is about her story. And it's really remarkable too because her father was the one who introduced monotheism to Egypt.
Oh, really?
And
Oh, wow.
as you probably know, they worship thousands of gods.
Sure. Uh huh.
But he was like, nope, we're just worshiping one. And it was a huge controversy. The temples got lots of income, and all of a sudden, nothing's coming to them. He's
Nothing.
relocating
Yeah.
the capital. I mean, so much. And then, her and King Tut had to reestablish everything again. They were just children at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He was 9, she was 12. And they had to go back to the capital after their father's death and just start building the kingdom up again. And
Wow.
just such a fascinating story, just turbulent times. I just wanted to write it. I thought it was so intriguing.
It does sound very, very interesting. Was this the book right here you're talking about?
Yep, that's it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't read that, if you're looking at this on an iPhone, don't strain your eyes. We'll read it to you. It's called The Forgotten. Is it Aten or Aten's last
Aten.
one? Aten. It's The Forgotten, Aten's Last Queen. Oh, that sounds very, very interesting. Plus, you obviously did your research when you wrote this book.
Yeah, I have so many books on ancient Egypt just alone in my house. And Aten is actually the one god that her father proposed that they worship. He was the one god. So when they went back, everything had to all of a sudden switch to Amun
Mm-hmm.
instead of, Aten was a sun god. So it was just so much stuff. So yes, I did lots of
Right.
research. I read a lot of research. I love getting magazines. I pick them up at Barnes and Noble all the time, and I just love keeping up with kind of that family. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, let's on the cover. There's two ladies there. Who can you tell us who these two ladies are featured in the on the cover?
so they're part of a tomb painting. Now, this was done by so it was originally released through Book Baby, which is a
Okay.
self-publishing company, and they're the ones who designed my cover. You kind of give
Okay.
them what you want, what you're
Sure.
looking for, and I loved kind of the ripped style they had there.
Oh, I like that
And
too.
yeah, the two it's from like an actual painting in a tomb
Oh,
is who these
wow.
ladies are. I'm pretty sure, but if there's any other experts, I'm an armchair Egyptologist, I will say. But the lady in black is Hathor 'cause she has her headpiece is kind of what gives her away. So
Okay.
yes. And I
You know
believe
who
the
I,
other one's just a queen, but again, just armchair
Yeah,
historian here.
armchair. You know who I thought of, and I can't remember the character's name, and I know I'm thinking modern. When I saw her with that headpiece, what was the villainous name in Sleeping Beauty? What was that?
Oh, Maleficent.
That's who I thought of when I saw it. Don't you think it maybe a little bit?
I can totally see where you get that. Yes.
It's the orange, and I'm like, okay,
Yep.
no, I know maybe that's Sleeping Beauty in front of her. No, I'm just kidding, y'all. That's really serious history.
It
You
can
know.
go all the way back. There's a Cinderella story in Egypt time, so who knows? Maybe there's an Aurora story too.
You never know. Yeah. But now, intriguingly enough, Jalen, that story doesn't stop there. Let me bring the next thing up. You actually wrote, I guess you could say, a sequel to this, or as a follow-up. How would you describe this particular book?
So this book I wrote because I wanted to know more about when they switched to monotheism, kind of what that was like.
Okay.
So this book actually explores the life of her older sister.
Okay.
And she was the oldest, married Aten. She was the oldest child of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. And Akhenaten and Nefertiti never had any male children. So he never had any male heirs through Nefertiti, who was his
Oh.
queen. But King Tut, when he was born, he had, some physical deformities and whatnot. And he was from a
Sure.
minor queen. So this story is kind of about her mom kind of propping her up. This is our future, is our daughter. She's going to be running the kingdom, and just kind of getting all of those political turmoil and
Mm-hmm.
being just a young girl growing up in that atmosphere. So I just wanted to go back to that and explore it a little more. So this book I decided to write about the older sister, and there is kind of a tie-in at the end to the
Okay.
end of my first book.
The first one. Uh-huh.
But they can be read as standalones. The only thing I ran into was like scenes that would overlap. So I had to be very careful about recreating those scenes, but from the different point of view and not,
I see.
changing so much.
Sure.
So when those scenes come up, I'd have to be like, oh, wait, I already wrote this, but I wrote it through Ankas and the Moon. So now I got to think of Married Aten. Okay, so go, so that was
Mm-hmm.
the one challenge I had. I had a big like timeline and everything and a family tree, kind of helped me
Oh,
keep all that straight in my head. So
that sounds so interesting. And plus, I don't think it would actually hurt to write the same scene twice. I mean, I'm just making a suggestion. Like if you have a whole crowd of people, even today, and
mhm.
maybe an event happens, you can name the event, and one person might see it this way, but the person from the other side saw it this way or they interpreted it this way. So you could tell the same story, but maybe with different points of view.
Yes, yeah. What they're each thinking they're each in a different place during different scenes. One's older, she knows a bit more about what's going on behind the scenes. The other one's maybe a bit more, precocious and
Mm-hmm.
very judgmental more. So it was really kind of fun, but also challenging to do that.
On your writing, did you go to school or anything to take like writing classes, or you just naturally talented that you could just write, without the training?
I think I've been writing for most of my life.
Okay,
Way back in elementary school, I wanted to write like the horror novels, Christopher
sure.
Pike and stuff. But then, okay, so I'm going to nerd myself out. I hope you don't mind.
Hey,
But
I've already nerded myself out with this. What are you talking to me?
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're okay. You're in
oh.
good company.
So I loved Star Trek Next Generation growing up.
That's good. Uh-huh.
So every summer, my parents would take me and my brother to Star Trek conventions. And at one of these conventions, I saw an ad for a Star Trek writing club. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
ooh. So I wrote to the person, and it was really just we were on a ship. You created a character, and then every month she'd send out a mission, and then you'd write it from your character's point of view, and then you'd send it back into her. And then she would send out a newsletter with all those stories that we all wrote about
Mm-hmm.
that same one mission. So I think that really helped me become a character driven author, is because I had all through high school, I was writing about this character, and it was kind of during the Deep Space Nine era then when
Oh
there was
yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
Dominion War and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yep.
So yeah, eventually I became my own captain and I had my own ship. I was promoted as such, so yes.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, that was I think one of my favorite activities in high school was that writing club.
That's awesome.
So I think that's really what kickstarted my writing journey was that.
Now,
Applause, thank you.
yeah, one thing I read that I was intrigued with your website was, ladies and gentlemen, I will share her website shortly. But on your website, I was very intrigued on one thing that you wrote, and it's true what you said, that back in the 1980s and the 1990s, there really wasn't a lot of female, I don't use the word hero, but strong female leads. You can take it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of my couple of my earliest childhood movies I watched was E.T. and like Return of the Jedi.
Sure.
Watching other movies, I did not understand why women weren't like Princess Leia. Why weren't they going in, taking up the charge, fighting alongside with the boys?
Hmm.
Why? Why were they sitting there screaming? It would drive me nuts.
All you had was Princess Leia most of those
Uh,
decades. Yeah.
all I had really was Princess Leia. So
And
there
maybe
wasn't.
a little Ripley. We talked about Ripley earlier,
Yeah,
Alien.
Alien was like my favorite movie in the 90s because Ripley was just so amazing.
Oh,
I
Sigourney
loved her.
Weaver ate that role up. Yeah.
Oh, she's so good in so much. Like everything she's good in.
Hmm.
Galaxy Quest, like one of my favorite movies,
Yes.
cracks me up every time. But really, the only book I had back then was Wrinkle in Time
Hmm.
because the main character, she was a sister, she was young, she got angry, she made mistakes, she had a little brother just like I did. I was like, I can relate to this. And she was
Yep.
the main driver in that story. But again, there weren't that many, unless it was like a teen romance, which I've never been a romance fan. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
They can just sprinkle into my stories, but they're like not the main plot point.
Right.
So
Uh-huh.
I wanted more of that. So that's why I loved Star Trek because you had a female security chief who eventually left. Thanks. Um, but you had main chief of medical who was a female, counselor who was a female. I could have used more. We had Ensign Rowe, and then we had Kira from Deep Space Nine, and of course Captain Janeway. And but they were so few and far between. So it
Yeah.
got better and better. But that's why I really wanted to write my YA series, is because I
Hmm.
wanted girls who were like me to have different characters, not just like the really smart Hermione character in Harry Potter, but a different variety of characters. Characters
Sure.
who are goofy, who tell jokes, who maybe sass off a bit. So that's why I was one of my main motivators for writing the story, along with just, wanting to explore kind of the women of King Arthur's time was
Sure.
what drove me into that series.
And not just the stereotypical damsel in distress that we used to have, right?
No, no.
You want strong women that can say, "Hey, I can do this myself," right?
I am all about girl power. So,
Girl power. There it is. So let's go through your first book. I think this is your first novel. I guess it dealt with strong female characters. Was this it? Was it the first
yes.
one? Okay, Descendants of Avalon, ladies and gentlemen. So, Jalen, tell us about the Descendants of Avalon. And this is the first of a series, might I add, right?
Yes. So, this is the
Okay.
first of my trilogy. So, it's about four friends. They make a wish in a wishing well. They don't realize this is a magic wishing well and that their wish is going to tip the balance of power in the land of Avalon, which still exists, but, kind of connected but separate from our world.
Okay.
So they are called upon by the Lady of the Lake to come and retrieve their wishes before the evil wizard's minion gets it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If he gets them, what he's doing is he's reforging Excalibur because he wants to cut
Oh,
the bonds
wow.
from his prison and take over Earth and escape Avalon.
Ooh, that's intriguing.
So, on top of it, one of their friends gets kidnapped by one of the minions of the evil guy. So
Mm.
they're on a quest not just to refine these wishes that they cast, but they also are there to rescue their friend, as well as being in this whole other land of Avalon, which is magical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a whole different way of being. They can't use their phones. They have to trust these people they just met to help them accomplish these goals. And some of the knights they're going with as teenagers, you have they're kind of hot, so there's some teen angsty stuff in there as well. So again, it is YA.
Mm-hmm.
So surprisingly, it was very easy to tap into my teen angst as an adult. I don't know why. I guess I have unresolved issues from high school, but that's kind of what I bring in here. They're teenagers in high school who go on this quest basically to save Avalon in the world. So,
But you mentioned, it's geared toward young adult, but anybody of any age can enjoy it, can read it,
yes.
right?
I would
Okay.
love for anybody of any age to read it.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun playing with like bringing these women forward, like Morgana or Morgan Le Fay,
Uh
Lady of the
huh.
Lake, Guinevere, and also playing with some of the landscape. And we have some dwarf-like characters, and
Oh wow.
so yeah. So and then our big baddie, of course, who I won't reveal quite yet. You'll have to read it
Not
to
yet. You
find
have to
out.
read it. Make sure you make just drop some breadcrumbs right now. You know.
You'll get a few when you start. So
Well, let me ask you now. Some authors, when they read, when they write a book, even if it's a fantasy, especially if it's fantasy, if it's fiction, they base their characters on either somebody they've known or someone famous. So, did you create your characters just completely create, or did you base any body or any character in your book on a real person?
so a lot of them do have aspects of me, but
Mm-hmm.
one character, May, is like a friend. She is the sassy one. She is the one, if you upset her friend, she will let you know about it. She was so fun to write. And yeah, she's totally based on a friend of mine. Like I kept picturing her when I was writing this character. And otherwise, a lot of them are kind of me. They're a little nerdy. They're a little awkward, stuff like that. So
That's good. I've heard a lot of authors say that. Well, yeah, I knew this boss, or my cousin, or they could say, well, I there's this Hollywood actress that I use some of their characteristics to put into here. So like, okay, so that's kind of it's a lot of people. I guess that'd be a good source to kind of
yeah.
pull in.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
there's always those little tidbits. And like, I always have in my books, I usually have characters with green eyes. Because my
Hmm.
husband has green eyes and my daughter has green eyes.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
Runs in the
usually
family.
pop that in there somewhere too. So
But now, like I said, with that first book, that's was first of the series. But this is you wrote a follow up. Now, would you call this a sequel, a spinoff? How would you relate this to the first novel?
yeah, so this happens after the first novel. So this is all a series that's going to happen all
Okay.
kind of in one summer, kind of the end of the year into summer. So the first thing that our heroes encounter is the questing beast appears on Earth. And it's like,
Ooh,
whoa, what's going on? And so
interesting.
they have to go back to Avalon because some of their friends and the lady in the lake has disappeared. They don't know who's taking
Ooh.
them,
Ooh.
but the lady of the lake was researching the four friends' origins, trying to find out if maybe they have
Wow.
some ties to Avalon.
Uh huh.
So they must go back to kind of help find their friends. And of course, as you can see on the cover, I do bring in a dragon.
I
So
see that. Yeah, I'm intrigued by that.
she is later in the story, but she will pop in, and she was fun to write. I'm like, why don't I have a dragon yet? And I was just like, why didn't I put a library in my first book? I got to put one of those in here too.
It's like
So
wizards.
you just have to keep going, to keep developing things. So this one really explores the land a bit more and some different characters. And
Awesome.
yes,
And ladies and gentlemen, the name of the book is Lost Daughters of Avalon, Awakenings, Book 2. So this is the second book of the series, and I would assume you could enjoy this book alone, but you probably really need to read book 1 to really get
yeah,
to see what's going on. So yeah, don't just jump in the middle, you know.
yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, if you're intrigued so far with book 1 and book 2, don't stop there. There's
Uh-uh.
actually another one. So after we do book 2, we go right into book 3. This one's called Destiny of Avalon, Awakenings, book 3. So tantalize with this one, Jalen.
So this one, I throw everything in there.
Oh,
So this time, our villain is
wow.
an evil genie
I see
who,
the lamp, yeah.
yes, and we get to go to the Egyptian land of the dead because they have to go retrieve something there. So some of them go there. Some of them are coming up with this plan because the genie kidnaps another one of the friends. This time he
Oh,
gets
no.
May. Um, and so he is holding her hostage until they give him back his lamp because
Mm,
his lamp is kind of where he stores his power. This is his
that's
power
all I
well.
can say. Yes, uh-huh.
He has power, but this is where he kind of stores a whole lot more of it. And he wants to cast this spell to change the world. He has a goal in mind, and you don't know what it is for a while. And so, yes, this one I just threw everything in there,
Everything in
and
the kitchen sink, right?
everything. Yes, I have Egyptian gods who I love. There's Anubis, there's Sekhmet. Oh, it's just great. I
Wow.
love tapping into my ancient Egypt lore. So,
So
Yes,
does
this
this
one I'm
go
very proud
both?
of.
Does this go both like to their planet and then ours as well? Did they kind of
Yes.
merge this in as well? Wow,
So
very
yeah.
intrigued. It's almost like the Star Wars Empire coming to Earth. I'm like, oh no, in a way.
I know. I love those memes where they have like the Death Star above, us. It's like, well, things can't get any worse, and then there's the Death
Here's
Star
the
up
Death
there.
Star. Yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty funny. Well, Jalen, I want to put up your website right here really quick for everybody to see. If I can do that. Here we go. So tell us, what's, first of all, the name of your website, and number two, what would people see when they click on here?
Well, first of all, as a new author, usually you should make your website your name. I didn't do that. It's tsippingnerdymom.com. I was trying to encompass things about me. No, just go with your name. Future, any writers out there. But my website, it has the books I have out there. It has some advice for aspiring authors.
Uh-huh.
There's a media kit for where I've done other
Oh,
type
wow.
of interviews and things. And of course, there is a whole lot about tea because, the beginning of my website is tea sippin'.
You like tea. I read that too. We'll talk about that too.
But yeah, I have a few different tabs you can go through, discover more about my books, what's coming up, what's coming next. Like right now, I just finished up a children's book.
Oh,
So I've
that's
submitted
nice.
that to my publisher and just waiting to find out next steps. We're hoping to get it released this year. So fingers crossed.
Okay.
But yeah,
And can people contact you on your website as well?
yes, yes, thank you. I do have a contact me
Oh, great.
webpage. It goes, whatever you type in there goes to my email. I love hearing from other readers, other authors. I just love talking books and nerd with people. So
Sounds very interesting. So that's tsippingnerdymom.com. Well,
correct. Yes,
okay. Make sure you bookmark that, ladies and gentlemen.
because you probably won't find it again. But yes.
Yeah, right, exactly. But we talked about something on your website, and I myself am intrigued. So let me bring this up, and I'm going to show the picture, and then you can explain what's going on here, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, look very carefully and see if you can figure out what this is. Hey, give up? Okay, Jalen, let us have it. What is this? What are we looking at here?
This is a little tea journal. So
Tea journal.
it has different kinds of flavors of tea there. So loose leaf, I drink only loose leaf. It has kind of the different styles. So you can write about kind of how the leaves look like before you steep it in water, after you steep it, if the aroma's changed, how overall it tasted. So it's just kind of a journal about all the different teas you taste. And if you want to keep a record of, if you liked this one, the other one you thought was like, ooh, I'm not a fan of rooibos tea.
Uh-huh.
I'm just not. So I know that's a brand that I will probably avoid, but I love white teas, green teas, black teas, chai tea. Love chai tea.
Everything.
So yeah, this is just a tea journal. With all my writing, I haven't had time to keep up with it, but I do still have it on my with all my tea stuff. So
And that's hence your website, tsippingnerdymom.com.
yep, and I have other recommendations for tea and how to steep tea if you want to. I have this really cool teapot, and it has like the different temperature settings on it, so that way
Oh, wow.
to stop. If it's green tea, it'll show you what temperature to stop it in between. So
I see.
I love my kettle. It helps me brew it perfectly.
What would you say your absolute favorite either brand of tea or flavor of tea? What would that be if you had to pick?
There is this amazing toasty chestnut.
Okay.
It smells incredible. Like I
Mm.
love nuts, but it makes me think very much kind of cold winter mornings and
Mm-hmm.
just warming you up with that beautiful nutty aroma. There's also kind of I love the peppermint candy cane teas around Christmas, which are
Oh,
mostly
yeah. I know what you're talking
herbal
about.
teas that they make, but yeah, that toasty chestnut is just sometimes I'll just pop open the lid of my tea tin just to smell it. It's so good.
This is a little bit different, but I've had peppermint mocha, and that's really good too. I like that. Anything peppermint. I'm a sucker for that.
Well, I will be honest, I don't like coffee.
You
I was
don't? Okay, that's okay.
I was a little disappointed. I ordered a pumpkin chai, and they gave me a pumpkin latte, and I had to go all the way back down and be like, I know you're a
Oh,
coffee place, but I don't drink coffee. I like your
do a
chai
circle around.
though. So yes, I had to go fix that.
Okay, so we've talked about your books, the ancient Egyptian books, and we talked about your, the trilogy, which I'm really intrigued by too myself. But now you've written other books, of course, since then, and so let's see, we talked about that. So tell us about this book. Now, this I believe was a stand-alone book, but I'll let you tell more about it. And it's called Strangely Constructed Souls, and the title itself is very intriguing and very suspicious. So can I tell us more about that?
So this one I wrote, our library put on a Frankenstein contest. So
Ooh,
anything kind of
Frankenstein.
based on Mary Shelley's story on
Yeah.
monsters, that's what this came from. Strangely Constructed Souls is a line in Frankenstein. Um,
Oh, is it? Okay.
so this came about because I had the only story that's come to me in a dream. I woke up and I was like, "Whoa, I need to write this down right now." I
Mm-hmm.
had a dream about a human zoo on an alien world. And that's the basic
Mm.
premise of this. But there is a bit more of a nefarious purpose to this human zoo. They're on this alien planet. There's this kind of dictator,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some secret experiments going on behind the scenes. So this one I tap more into my sci-fi background, and it's a novella, so it's a much shorter novel because it's a novella, obviously.
Sure. Uh-huh.
And it does talk about the concept of monsters, appearance on the inside,
Oh,
things like
wow.
that. I really wanted to explore that monster aspect and appearances versus, what's hidden underneath. So that's kind of what this is
Mm.
about.
So when I first saw the title, Strangely Constructed Soul, I thought maybe it was something about the paranormal, but really it's not, right?
No, it's about all the different strange things out there, aliens. I mean, I've always been one to believe there are aliens out there because the universe is endless. Come on,
Yeah.
there's got to be
Yeah.
someone out there. So that's kind of what that's about. I've thought about creating another one called Strangely Constructed Worlds. I kind of have a basic plot outline, and it. I was writing it before the pandemic, and it was actually about extreme social distancing. And
Mm-hmm.
then the pandemic hit, and I'm like, whoa, I should have gotten that out ahead of time.
Sure.
But you only have so much time in a day.
And you're right. I mean, the universe is very big. I mean, you hear about aliens, the paranormal, like cryptids, Bigfoot. I mean, all these mysterious things. I mean, there's got to be some truth to it because I mean, it's just too much. Our world's big and the universe is big. So I'm inclined to believe everything is possible. You
I
never
watched a
know.
lot of X-Files growing up. I'll just say that.
X Files. Oh, I liked X Files. That's really good and
Big
mysterious.
fan of that.
So yeah, I wish they still filmed that personally. So.
I loved the new stuff. Bring Gillian Anderson and
Well, I mean, I wish they
back,
still
and
filmed it. Yeah.
yeah, that was great. David Duchovny, love those two.
So, as an author, we got a few more books to talk about, but let me get some advice from you. There may be somebody watching this show, and either live or they're much later on, and maybe they've got some ideas, to write, but they don't know, or maybe they've completed something writing, but it's just sitting there on their desk. They don't know where to go with it, what to do. It's hasn't been proofread. So, what would you say to a prospective writer watching this that really needs some advice? What would you tell them to get published? What should they do with their completed manuscript?
So, number one thing is definitely find a good editor. If you can find
Hmm.
a good developmental editor, they will also comment on kind of the storyline itself, kind of let you know if there's any missing threads or things like that. Or I had a developmental editor for my trilogy, and then I
Oh
just
wow.
had a regular editor for my other books because those are self-published. This
Okay.
one was the trilogy was through a publisher, so they did provide my developmental editor was fantastic. She helped me bring
Really?
out the best in my writing, bring out more from my story. It's really important. I am a reviews editor for the Historical Novel Society,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
and I do the indie book section. And I love meeting new authors. But when
Oh,
you
really? That's
submit a
great.
book to a professional organization and I find errors in your manuscript you're submitting, I'm not gonna select that. I'm not gonna have our readers review it. You need to have the most professional looking thing, you know, to compete with the, more mainstream publishers, you do want to get your book professionally edited. I've read books that are beautiful stories, but there's so many editorial errors that honestly I'm pulling my hairs out.
Like spelling check, spell check
Yes,
stuff?
yep, they
Okay.
use different words, they're the same word but different spelling.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it just makes me sad because your book should be a beautiful representation of all of your hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find little things like that, people unfortunately are going to judge it. And you may have the most beautiful, astounding thing out there, but if you have a few like errors in there, people will be like, no, I'm going to go with a more professionally edited book. Not to say those mainstream books don't have errors. I found a few.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing is definitely get an editor.
Get an editor. Okay.
Yep, find an editor. Do some research. If you have a writing community, see if someone in your local writing community is an editor and see if they would be willing to do your work.
Yeah.
I definitely start there first before you go online and research people. If you do research people, they should at least offer a sample of their work. So you can kind of see if they would fit well with you. I had a few of those that I checked out with my ancient Egyptian books.
Okay.
We eventually we did find someone local to do it, but I did reach out to a few people. I would send them my first chapter and they'd send it back and say, here's kind of what I noticed for edits. So then you can see if, if you caught anything else, or if you're like, oh, those are really good catches. This is someone I might want to hire. It will be a chunk of change, but it's so worth it. So worth it. In terms of publishing, there are lots of options out there. You can, query for different publishers. You can query for agents, but you have lots of options as authors out there. If you want to self-publish, you can do that. And, I would encourage you. You have a lot of, now you will have to do all of your marketing yourself. Book covers, you'll most likely have to do yourself. If you go with a site like BookBaby, you can pay for them to do your cover, which is what I did for that first book. So just know that that's also going to be coming out of kind of your publishing budget.
Your capital, basically.
Yep, basically. I mean, it's not necessarily a cheap profession, and don't expect to get rich from it because I still have my day job, unfortunately. The dream is to just be a full-time writer, so, we're getting there.
It'll get there. Stephen King made it,
Oh,
so.
I know. Someone's got to do it, right? So, yeah, definitely use those resources you have. Like I said, a writing community, wonderful group of people. We have a writing community here where I'm from, and we usually meet a couple times a month. One time you submit like a chapter, and then other people read it and critique and let you know, oh, hey, here's what I got. Maybe here's what I didn't like so much. Valuable feedback. And you get this all for free. You just have to maybe edit some of their stuff. But having other people read my story who didn't know as much about ancient Egypt as I did was very helpful. Because, I can picture all the different gods and their backstory, but not everybody can. And sometimes you don't have that perspective when you're writing. So definitely number one resource, local writing community. Check them out. Editors. And then look at all the options you have. I think self-publishing is a wonderful option. And there are a lot of great people out there, like on Facebook groups or Twitter groups, who are very supportive. So yeah, a lot of different things you can do. It's a very exciting time for authors.
And also, when you have somebody, critique your book, like when you edit, would you recommend a certain, font like Arial times New Roman, or like 8, 12, 14? Is there a certain size? I mean, or does it really matter? Or what really stands out? Or is there a form, I guess you could say?
I definitely prefer 12 font, and that may be just because my eyes are getting older. I've had some reviews of books submitted to me, and they're like 9, and I'm like, oh, what? I have to like make it bigger so I can actually read it. Really, I don't think it matters you just have to watch submission guidelines. So if you're submitting to a publisher, make sure you read all their things about their spacing. Do they want single spacing, double spacing? How do they want their margins? How do they want where the page number is? Make sure you read all those little fine print.
It could be very specific then. Okay.
Yes, some are very specific, and if you don't follow it, they won't even read your book. So when it comes to local writing communities, usually we're pretty loose about it. We're like, whatever, just submit. But when you're submitting to publishers and stuff, be be very careful. So.
And when you're in writing communities, you look for spelling, grammatical errors, but y'all also look for like plot holes where you say, wait a minute, so and so ended up here, but what about this thing over here? What happened? Y'all look for plot holes as well?
We do. And, I've done a lot of secretarial work, so I do look for a lot of spelling, and I look for a lot of stuff like, oh, that's a dependent clause. You need a comma after that, things like that. I'm kind of crazy about that stuff. But we do also look at plot stuff. So my father worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and there's a lot of misconceptions about that. So when someone had submitted a book and there was a chapter about, a prison, I was like, no, that's wrong. I know you probably saw that in movies, but they actually don't carry guns around on their hip like that.
Yeah.
So very valuable information. He obviously didn't know that, probably because he doesn't have experience in that realm. But I'm someone who's like, nope, that doesn't work. So
that's
yes,
not real. Yeah.
it's not real. We do help each other with if something doesn't make sense. If I didn't get like a character, I had one person give me great feedback for one of my chapters. She said, I could not feel your character in here. It didn't feel like her. It just felt like writing. And that was very important. So I could go back and look and see I didn't have her voice clearly in that chapter as compared to other chapters.
I
So yes,
see.
critique groups, sometimes it can be hard to take feedback, but trust me, it's so good for you. And it's not a personal attack against you. It's going to make your writing better, even if sometimes it can be hard to swallow some days.
Sure.
I understand.
Well, I was in, just briefly, my own history. I was briefly in a writing club in high school, and I wrote some short stories and all that. And, I read part of my plot line, to the class. And, but, you'd be surprised. Some of the class completely got a different take on it. The way, and they interpreted it different than maybe I was meaning it to be. And so, and I would say, well, I never thought of it that way. Maybe I should be more specific. The story's not going here. It's going over here somewhere. So it was, and it was very constructive criticism. Some people say, I love your writing, but someone say that, I remember somebody said, well, you let us in their thoughts, but what about their physical traits? I'm like, I never thought about that. So I guess that's what you do in your writing circles there.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's one scene in my book, in the Avalon book, where the she's in a basement, she's playing the piano, but her family lives in a trailer. And everyone was like, that's not possible. You can't have a trailer over a basement. And I'm like, I lived in one.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
This is based on my childhood home when we lived in very small town, northern Minnesota. That's what we had, so I had to actually tell people, no, I can bring you pictures. This does exist. But then I was like, if they don't get it, other readers probably won't get it. So it's, something that you want to develop so it makes sense. So it's more, instead of being a trailer, it was more a rundown house. So some of that feedback, while I know it's true, if they're having issues with it, then I'm sure other people will too. And that's just, part of writing and editing, and that's what happens. You learn a lot in the whole, kind of process of it.
Now, all your books that you've written, as novels. Have you ever considered, well, there's two parts to this question. Number one, have you ever thought about or even interested in like screenwriting, like, for example, making one of your movies or your books into a movie or a play? And in part two, would you object to someone maybe who read your book? Hey, I'd like to make this a screenwriting thing. So, what's your answer to the first question? Are you interested in screenwriting or making some book a screen for screenwriting?
So, yeah, still waiting for Mr. Spielberg to call.
Or Lucas. We can settle for Lucas, can't we?
I'm fine with that too. or Dave Filoni. I would totally go with that.
That'll work.
So when I was in college, I was actually a theater major, and part of my classes were screenwriting.
Oh, wow.
So I have actually written plays. I have a play that's kind of Battlestar Galactica based about these two people who are kind of flirting, but then I can't remember. I mean, college was so long ago.
It's been a while for all of us. Yes, I know. Me too.
My oldest son is 18, so it's more than 18 years ago. But yeah, I used to do screenwriting, screenplays. We used to write them and then we put on our plays one time. So I've done it. I'm probably extremely rusty at it. I'm also very when I do screenplays, I've noticed I also direct while I'm writing the screenplay. I'm like, no, I can't do that. This is what the director is for. So I'm much
Exactly.
more of a novelist than I am a screenplay writer. But if anyone proposed such a thing and they wanted to submit it to something, I would not be adverse to it. The
Okay, so
only caveat is that I would have to play one of the characters in the story. I'm just saying.
okay, so
Theater major.
Universal Pictures or 20th Century Fox or Paramount, if y'all are watching, contact that person right there.
I have subscriptions to all of you guys, especially Paramount Plus. Love you.
You
Love
heard
all the
that?
Star Trek there. Love you.
And that is a plus.
Yes, such a plus.
Well, let's go. There's another book we haven't covered yet, Jalen. So let's make sure we cover this. Tell us about this book. And ladies and gentlemen, this one's called Journey into the Fantastical. Now that, and even the art there is very intriguing along with the title. So I take it that's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland story, or is it a little bit different? Well, how would you describe it?
So this is actually an anthology. So what it
Oh,
is
really?
this was an anthology contest that I submitted a short story to. And my story ended up placing second place.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
I know, so excited. So the top 3 people made it in the anthology. So
Oh,
my
wow.
short story is in here. It is about a young girl who's it takes place during the pandemic. She's kind of alone in the world. She doesn't really have any friends in school. And then she meets this girl from the woods. She's like, whoa, those are
Hmm.
the scary woods. Where did you come from?
Yeah.
But they kind of form this friendship. And maybe there's something suspicious about this girl. It's really about kind of inner magic and just kind of those bonds of friendship and looking beyond maybe what you see on the outside. Because
Wow.
the story came about because I had mentioned something, how with everyone wearing masks, you really can't see their faces.
Mm.
I'm just going to throw that out there. That was kind of the premise for this whole short story.
Let me think about that one.
So yes, it's more witchy than any of my other stories. I'll say that.
You say it's a short story. It's like a bunch of writers into this one book.
Yep, yep.
Are the stories separate, or are they all somehow all related to each other?
They are separate. The
They
first
are.
one is about a cat. So there's a cat there.
Well, I've got a cat.
I love cats. It's a very touching story. When I read it, I got teary-eyed. It was just very beautiful. There's also a story about some people at a nerd con and ghosts, which is very cool.
Oh, paranormal.
Yeah, so there's a paranormal one in there. I like to pretend the girl on the cover is the girl from my story, but I mean, I'm sure it looks like an amazing cover. So
I didn't see that till just now. I see the girl, but now I didn't see it. So if you look on the steps, ladies and gentlemen, right before the door, and looking at it to your right, there is a cat sitting there. You talked about a
yeah,
cat in the story.
yeah. So part of that may have eked into the cover design itself. Cover
Hmm.
design it's such a fun kind of exciting process. Like I designed the covers for my self-published novels, but for my
Oh, really?
trilogy, that was one that my publisher created. And with collaboration with me, they'd send me a bunch of, ideas and I'd be like, "Well,
Sure.
I like this." So it's kind of a fun process. So my trilogy and that one that you just saw was done by a publisher. The rest of them, I self-published. I actually created those covers, except for the first one. That was one that Book Baby created that. I created the
Uh-huh.
other two. So
And a lot of people have written really, really great things about your novel, ladies and gentlemen. She's got a lot of great reviews as well as rewards. Let me bring this up, and I'll let her kind of intrigue you. Well, it's not a review so much; it just kind of gives you a little bit of a breadcrumb and spark your interest on one of these stories. So, Jalen, I'll let you read this to our audience.
fire poured down my arms like orange rippling sleeves. Time to play the part of a god.
Ooh.
So our four main heroes may have some magic that connects them to Avalon. One of them may have some fire magic, and this comes into play when they are in the ancient Egyptian underworld. So yes, this was her tapping in to her girl power and
There it is.
bringing those fire flames out.
That is awesome. Now, we've talked about your books here, and I'm sure right now people that are watching this live or those that are watching this much, much later are very intrigued. So if they want to buy one or more of your books, where would you suggest they go find them, to purchase?
Well, the easiest place is definitely Amazon. .com.
Amazon.com. All
Yep,
right.
or Barnes& and Noble. There is also my publisher's website, Inklingspublishing.com, is where we have a
Okay.
lot of our books. I have a really good friend who writes horror novels. She has some great books there too. So, and sometimes during the holidays, Inklings Publishing does have little like sales, like bundles, so you
Oh,
can get
really?
our books for a little cheaper. So, I definitely recommend checking out the Inklingspublishing.com. But if you forget about that, Amazon is always an easy choice. So
Yeah. Just about you can find anything on
you can
Amazon,
find
right?
anything. Yes, I order stuff all the time. I'll be honest. I'm sure they're terrible, evil. I know they're the evil empire, but they have me on a string. Let's be honest. It's so easy to get stuff
They're
from there.
helping you out, right?
They're helping me out. They're helping you out. So
Exactly.
I can't
Well,
complain.
now, can you tantalize us again? Make it. Are you working on anything like right now? Do you have a book in works, or do you have any ideas for a future book right now?
So I just finished my children's book that I wrote and illustrated.
Okay.
And it's about a little elephant girl who decides to join her first ballet class. As you can
Oh, wow.
imagine, an elephant probably doesn't look the part of a typical ballerina. And so that's some of the issues that she deals with.
In a tutu?
And
Does she wear a tutu or no?
she does, of
Oh, I had a
course,
feeling.
she loves pink, and her leotard has a little tutu that I drew on there, and she's just so adorable. But yeah, it's just about the love of dance, and so that's what I've just finished. I'm really excited about, and I really need to go through it and read it again and edit it because I know I probably have some holes I can fill. But it's a fantasy set during the time of the pyramids, and Sekhmet
Oh,
is not a happy camper. She is
who's
the
not a happy
punished
camper?
Sekhmet, she is the cat goddess, the
The
lion
cat. They
goddess.
loved
She's
cats back then.
lion goddess.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, yeah, she's the lion goddess, and she is not happy. She's been punished by her father Ra, and
Ooh.
she is coming back to wreak havoc on the humans. So
Ooh.
the
Ooh.
original working title I had for it was Goddess of Slaughter because that's kind of what she was known for. Her story is the only way they could get her to stop kind of eating people after Ra was like, humanity's terrible, get rid of them. And then he felt bad and he's like, no, let's stop. And she's like, nope, I don't want to. They had to fill like a vat that looked like blood. They made it as beer, so that way she passed out from so much beer. That's what saved humanity, was a huge thing of beer. So
Oh, wow.
beer
Sounds
has an amazing
intriguing.
purpose. I know, right? So
Look at
she's now woken up and she's not happy.
no, there's excuse the pun, hell to pay, right?
So there was a little battle royale. So yes, that's the one I'm working on right now.
What do you have maybe a prospective date you're looking at? Maybe you might be finished with that. Just a roundabout date.
Late next year, maybe early the year after.
Okay.
I think it would just take that while with the process of going through the edits, first draft, second draft,
Sure. Uh-huh.
looking at cover designs, stuff like that. I would say it would take at least another year to get that going.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in when that's going to be published, as well as Jay Lynn's other great books, I would highly recommend you check out this website. It's www. Now listen carefully. It is www.tsippingnerdymom.com. Now that is a unique title, a very good, unique. I mean, right? You picked your personality instead of your name, right?
I sure did. On all other social media, you can usually find me at Lynn Else author. But my website, what can I say? I had to pull out all the stops.
That is perfect. And again, ladies and gentlemen, not only can you see her works on this website, I highly recommend you check it out. She's got other things on the website too. You can contact her. There's all kinds of reviews that she's got there, and there's even a tab called Tea Time.
You
That will
bet.
really, really intrigue you. We talked about that briefly earlier, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, I mean, I've never met or heard like a person that has all the tea stuff. So, you know what? Maybe Lipton or Tetley or one of those will hire you for their, marketing, maybe if
If
you're interested.
if anyone hires me for marketing, yes, I am interested. I love tea. Love tea, love writing, love being a nerd, and love being a mom. Forgot about that part. But I also love being a mom.
Nothing wrong with that at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, that's www.tsippingnerdymon.com. Go in there and and send her a message. Tell her if you've seen this show. Make sure you tell her you've seen her and on the show, and also don't just look at the cover. Order the book if you're really really intrigued. So, Jaylynn, it's been a pleasure having you on the show tonight. Really intrigued on your writing career, and yes, thank you for that. That just kind of that just suited my male ego to see some do that. So yeah, I guess we could. Are we the Bobbsey twins or what?
We're Jonesin. We're the Jonesin twins.
Yes, yeah. We're Indiana Jones's kids. That'll work. Yeah.
I will take that any day.
All right. Well, again, Jaylynn, thank you for being on the show, and again, I'd love to have you back on the show when you've got some future works.
You bet. So fun. Thank you all for listening, and I really appreciated it. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for tonight. I know an hour just seems to go by so fast. We got an interesting guest and talking about great subjects, but don't worry. I'm on the air every week with an individual guest and an interesting topic. Now, I want to make sure this is for my live audience that tunes in every week. There's going to be a little bit of a schedule change next week. Normally, I do these shows live every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. Eastern. I do have a family commitment next Tuesday, a week from today, that I really need to be in. So next week's Van Buren Variety Show will be next Wednesday. That'll actually be the 21st. So don't tune in to Tuesday. There won't be a show, but the show will be preempted until Wednesday. We'll do the live show Wednesday next week, and then after that we'll be back to our Tuesday show. So remember that. But I'll have that up there on my little blurb, whatever the next episode is, that it's going to be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. Eastern, then back to the Tuesday show. So in the meantime, I guess I will see y'all in a week and a day from now, for those of you that watch this live. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and Jaylynn, thank you for being on the show as well. Make sure you check out her books, ladies and gentlemen, because she's got a lot of interesting topics to peruse through. So that's it for me. This is Van Buren Variety for the Van Buren Variety Show. I will see y'all next time. Good night, everybody.